Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel, and in this video we will study the difference between C and C++ language. So the only difference, there can be many differences between C and C++, and there are many differences between C and C++, but the basic difference is that C is a procedural oriented programming language, while on the other hand side C++ is an object oriented programming language. Alright, so this is the very basic difference between C and C++, and I'm just emphasizing on this one particular piece of difference. So on the, as you go along with the course of C++, you study the features of C++, you will come to know about many of differences between C and C++. But the basic difference is this, the C is a procedural oriented programming language and C++ is an object oriented programming language. So this I just wanted to explain. And I wanted to, I just want you all to get a hold of trying to understand actually what is this object orientation. Okay, so I will just start with a hypothetical example. Suppose there's an organization, there's a big organization, and there are two employees. Suppose the name of the employees, there are two employees, and the name of the employee is, the first employee's name is Ram, and the second employee name is Shyam. Suppose these are the two employees, and so they have a difference, so I want you to understand the difference between what is a procedural oriented language and what is a object oriented language through this video. So you can consider a hypothetical situation in which there is a company, and in this company there is a product manager. Suppose the product manager's name is Krishna. Okay, he is a product manager. So I'll just write it down. It gets interesting. And there are two developers under his control. One is Ram and the other is Shyam. And the thing that is specific to Ram is that he's an object-oriented programmer. Object-oriented programmer. And the thing that is specific to Shyam is that he is a procedural, Okay, so Shyam is a procedural programmer. So now you can understand, if Ram is an object-oriented programmer, that means he must work in some kind of object-oriented programming language. For example, just consider that he works in C++. Okay, and now Shyam is a procedural programmer, so that means he must work in some kind of structured or procedural oriented programming language, and one of those language is C programming language. Okay, so there is one more difference between Ram and Shyam, that Ram, whenever he is given some problem, he thinks in terms of objects and classes, and Shyam, whenever he is given some problem, he thinks in terms of functions. So this is what is the difference between Ram and Shyam. And now what is happening is that this product manager Krishna, he is giving one problem to Ram and Shyam. And what is the problem? I'd just like to discuss with you all, and then I would tell you this problem has been individually given to Ram and Shyam by Krishna, and then I would like to discuss how Ram and Shyam approach this problem. So let us start. What is the problem? So the problem is that Ram and Shyam have been given this assignment that they have to create a website. And what kind of website they have to design? I'll tell you what kind of website they have to design. It's a very interesting website, and this is a website for small children. So the website for small children is that small children will get some shapes. Suppose a square shape, or a circle shape, a triangle shape. So these kind of shapes will be displayed to the small children, and once you click on those shapes, the shapes will start to rotate. Okay, shapes will start to rotate. This triangle will also rotate, and whenever a shape will rotate, a certain type of music will also come. So music will be, suppose dong dong, this kind of music will come. Okay, like this kind of music will come. So this is the task that has been given to both Ram and Shyam. So now let's just think suppose first this task has been given to develop this website to both Ram and Shyam. And now, first of all, this problem is being approached by Shyam. So Shyam, my dear friends, he is a procedural programmer. So he will think in terms of what? He will think in terms of only functions. So his task will be very simple. What he will do? He will create a simple function. Suppose first of all, he will create a function. What? Suppose I say he will create a function rotate, and I just, I'm not writing the exact specifics, but something like this. Suppose he will say the shape, sorry, the shape is rotating, and then he will create a function what? Void suppose music, because whenever a shape rotates, it generates a music. And what kind of music? Suppose say dong dong, this is the music that is generated. So I would just say what? So don't go into, I'm not writing very specific code, just you to give an idea between what is the difference and what are the advantages of thinking in object oriented terms. So this has been, when this work was given to Shyam, he just thought in terms of functions, and he created two functions. One was the rotate function and one was the music function, and he designed those functions and submitted it to the product manager, that was Krishna. And now this task was again assigned to the second employee. And who was the second employee? He was Ram. But Ram is what? Ram is an object oriented programmer. So Ram will think in terms of what? Ram will think in terms of objects and classes. So therefore, first of all, Ram will identify, if he is given this problem, he will first of all identify that there must be three classes. What three classes will be there? The first class will be, suppose, square. One class will be square, and then he will create one more class. What? This class will be what? Circle. He is thinking in terms of what? He is thinking in terms of classes and objects. So first of all, he is identifying the entities. What are the entities? Square, shape, triangle, square, circle and triangle. These are the three entities. So he is designing what? Three classes. And then he has designed, once he has designed three classes, then he will say, my dear sir, I will just add, what he will do is that he will just add what? He will just add the rotate method and music method to each class. So this work will be done by whom? Work will be done by Shyam. See, this particular piece of work, this has been done by Shyam. He has created three classes, and in each and every class he has created two functions. One is the rotate function and one is the music function. So I'll just demarcate, this particular piece of work is, this is the demarcation, and this work has been given by Shyam. Shyam has thought in terms of functions, but Ram has thought in terms of what? He has thought in terms of objects and classes. So that is why he has designed classes over here. So now he has designed three classes. One of the square class, the circle class, and then the triangle class. So this sounds reasonable, and now both of these employees, Ram and Shyam, both approach to the product manager and say that they have designed the application and they have worked in such and such ways. So now what do you think? Whose application design is better? So now whose design is better? Both of them go. So it appears that Shyam has done a better work. Why Shyam has done a better work? Because he has just written, this amount of code. He has written so small amount of code. It's so easy to understand, he has written just very simple code, just created two functions and it is done, So, and what the work was, Ram was there by creating, the object oriented programmer. He had to design three separate classes, and in each and every class he had to create three different all the methods, he had to repeat the methods, rotate method and the music method. So it appears that right now, it just appears to the naked eyes that Shyam is a better programmer, or procedural oriented programming is better as what then compared to object oriented programming. Why? Because Shyam has written smaller amount of code and his code is, it is sweet and simple to understand. But I think that this object oriented programming is not good. So can you suggest some improvements? So now Ram comes out, because he is object oriented programmer, he comes out with what? He comes out with improvements. And what kind of improvements he comes out? He says that, my dear sir, I am thinking in terms of objects and classes, And now let me do one thing. I will not so the product manager complains to Ram and he says that, look, you have created 3 different classes, and in each and every class you have created the same method, you know, the rotate method and the music method. In this class also, circle class, you are creating the rotate and music method. In the triangle class also, you are creating what? You are creating the rotate and the music method. So then Ram, because he is object oriented programmer, and if you have basic idea of object orientation, then you must be aware of the concept of inheritance. So now Ram comes up with a very beautiful idea, and he says that, my dear sir, what I will do is that I will do something very simple. And he says, I will create what? I will create a class that is, you know, that is the shape class. He will design a shape class. For example, this is the shape class. And in the shape class, he will give what? He will give the rotate method, and then he will give what? He will give the music method. These 2 methods he will give, and now 3 classes will inherit from which class? 3 classes will inherit from the shape class. See, this way. 3 classes now inherit from shape class. One is the square class, one is the circle class, and then one is what? One is your triangle class. So now what is happening is that Ram has done something very interesting, and he has, you know, he has stopped, he has prevented code duplication. So here, you know, this code duplication he prevented. And how he prevented? You know, he created a base class, you know, a shape class, and inside the shape class he created what? He created the music and then the rotate method. You know, now he created the shape class, and then, you know, this square class, you know, it derives. So I'm not writing exact C++ syntax, just to give you an idea. It derives from what class? It derives from shape class. Again, this circle class, you need not give all, you know, both the methods, because this class is deriving from which class? Because this class is derived from the shape class. That is why I can say it has, you know, rotate and the music method. And then again, the same is what? The same is with this, the new triangle class. So triangle class also need not give the rotate and shape, because it derives from which class? It derives from the shape class. That is why now you see, now this is now the solution, the new solution that has been given by our object oriented programmer, and he is Mr. Ram. He has suggested this solution. So now it appears that both the object oriented programmer and the procedural programmer are on equal terms. You know, both have written same amount of good quality code, but still now there are some changes. And what kind of changes are there? Suppose I say that, you know, for the first change the product manager comes up with, the product manager says that, see, my dear friends, I would like to introduce one change. I would like to say that this triangle, when it rotates, you know, when previously, when all these shapes, the square, the circle and the triangle, when they used to rotate, they used to generate only one specific type of music. That was the dong, 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 dong. This was the music that was generated. But now for triangle, he said, specifically for triangle, he said that when a triangle rotates, you have to generate the music pong, pong. Okay. Suppose say ping pong. Alright, so this was the music. Now updated music for the triangle is what? The updated music for triangle is ping pong. So here, ping pong. This is the music that has to be generated for what? A triangle. So now this task will be assigned to both the object oriented programmer and the procedural programmer. So I'll just remove it. So now what he will do, what the procedural programmer will do, he will do something like this. He will say, if shape is equal to what? If it is equal to a triangle, then you write what? Then you write, suppose for triangle, you know, the change was that music has to be like ping pong. Otherwise it has to be what? Otherwise it has to be what? It has to be like, else see out what? It was, you know, dong dong. Okay. Alright. And now when the object oriented programmer thinks in terms of this change, he will say that in the triangle class, he will straight away go to the triangle class and he will override which method? He will override the music method. And what will he say? He will say void music, and this music method is specific to the triangle class. And he will say here what? He will say what? Cout. What he will say? Ping pong. Ping pong. Okay. So now you observe, if there are some changes, then this piece of code, that was written by the procedural programmer, it has become a little clumsy. How it has become little clumsy? Because the programmer, you have to actually read this code, that if shape is equal to triangle, then you have to generate this music, else you have to generate this music. So this code is a little clumsy, difficult to maintain and understand. But this particular piece of code is very difficult to, very easy, very easy to see and understand. How? Because when you are inside the triangle class, then you have to generate which kind of music? You have to generate the ping pong kind of music. Now, suppose the product manager comes up with another change, and he says that once when a shape rotates, the shape are generally rotating from center. But now if a square is rotating, then it has to rotate from the edge. Okay. So now he comes up with this change. Then again, what will happen? He will check over here. What the procedural programmer will check? What if shape is equal to what? If it is equal to a square, then he will say the shape is rotating around say suppose edge. Shape has to rotate from edge, else it has to rotate from the center. So he will say I'll just copy it. I'll just copy it and I'll just paste it over here. I think it should get copied. Then else the shape is rotating around center. But if you ask what will be done by the object oriented programmer, so the object oriented programmer will just override one method, and that is the rotate method. And inside the rotate method, he will write what? He will write very simple, he will write void rotate. So I'm just assuming that you have basic idea of object oriented programming. If you don't have idea, then you can skip this video. But this video is just intended to give you a difference between the object oriented and procedural oriented programming, and what are the what is the problem around the basic problem that that is with the procedural oriented language. So now this is the case, and now you can there can be many changes in the application, and the procedural oriented programmer will have to if there are many changes, then the procedural oriented programmer will make the code very complex and difficult to understand. Why? Because there are a lot of this if else condition that you have to manually read and then understand how the code is working. But if you are talking in terms of object oriented terms, then this code is very simple to understand. Why? Because if I ask how a square is rotating, then you just go to the square class and you just say the square is rotating around the edge. And if I say how a circle is rotating, then you say the circle is derived from the class shape, and shape class is what? Shape class is rotating around the center. So you can write like this. I say what kind of music is generated when the triangle is when the triangle rotates. So you can just go to the triangle class and say the music is ping pong. But if you go to this particular piece of code, the music, that music method that has been written by Shyam, because he is a procedural oriented programming developer. So he will have to see the whole code, and then he will have to read this condition that if this shape is equal to triangle, then you have to generate this kind of music. So this appears, now it becomes little, we get an understanding, we give small amount of understanding that your object oriented programming language make your code much more simple, understandable. And if there is some very big application that involves a lot of complexities, that involves a lot of entities, then definitely procedural languages, this is just a small example, but if there are a lot many of entities, for example 20, 30 or 50 or 100 entities that are involved, then procedural oriented language, you can do of course solve those problems with procedural language also, but that will be very difficult. But if you know some object oriented programming language, then your task will become very simple. Why? Because the code is clean and easy to understand and maintain. That is why this is the basic advantage that is offered by C++ over the C programming language. Okay, so this is just a video. I mean, I don't expect you to understand the whole code if you haven't designed any classes, if you are not aware of the concepts of inheritance or overriding, then it is just fine, you can just skip the video. But if you're if you have a basic idea, then you can just follow this video, and through this video it gives a good amount of clarity that why an object oriented programming language is better as compared to a procedural language. Okay, thank you so much for watching my videos.